13 is on your side.
Welcome back. Thanks so much for keeping it with us here on Evening Plus. So many of us will spend at least a little time this time of year tailgating in some way. Maybe that's at home in our own living room. Maybe that's out at a field at an actual game, whether that's college or high school or maybe even an NFL game out in Detroit for the Lions this year. But if you're looking to keep things just a little bit healthier, we've got some options for you that we're going to talk about tonight. I'm joined once again via Zoom by Shanti Appello, registered dietitian and health and wellness spokesperson for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. Shanti, thanks so much for joining us once again. You've got a whole spread you're going to walk us through. And if you want to take this fun topic of tailgating in a little bit of a healthier direction.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think with tailgating, we want to think about making the healthy choice the easy choice, right? So if it's not offered on the table, it's really hard to make a healthy choice. So I think some of these recipes will relate to a lot of people because they're really easy to upscale. So the first one is a flatbread, and I'm going to start with a flatbread. You can do a whole wheat flatbread that's going to add a little bit more fiber to the mix, and then add some apples. Michigan apples, such a great staple for us, and I'm using Honeycrisp today. These are just sliced thinly. Now, this goes super well with our next topping, which are caramelized onions. So spread a few of those on there. And this is so easy to upscale, right? Like you can make so many caramelized onions all at once. I like to make a big batch just for the week because they're so delicious. And then finally, we'll top that with some mozzarella and throw it in the oven just until that cheese melts. I like mozzarella because it's low in salt and generally fat as well. And then for the toppings, make it nice and peppery with some arugula, also beautiful and colorful. This one's baked right here. And then a final kind of drizzle of balsamic reduction adds a little punch of sweetness and acidity to this.
That looks absolutely delicious. And like you said, each of those things that you are putting on top of the flatbread, each, makes it just a touch healthier, adds in another element, with those vegetables and, the cheese that you mentioned, the mozzarella. Sounds absolutely delicious and, probably going to do a little bit better for your insides and your overall health than your typical pizza might.
Exactly. So we've got lots of fiber-rich ingredients, which is great too, because it's going to help keep you fuller for longer. Speaking of keeping you full for longer, though, of course, protein needs to be on the table as well. So we've got some healthier wings. I think wings are kind of a staple for tailgates. These are baked. And they're baked on top of a grate on top of my baking sheet here. So what that's going to do is allow all that excess fat to kind of drip off and they remain so crispy. So I've done a spice mix here. This is a dry rub, so I'm not drenching it with any kind of heavy sauce. Instead, just leaning on the crisp skin there and letting that extra fat come off. I've done sumac. That's this Middle Eastern spice. It's actually made from a flower, and it's got this like really beautiful citrusy flavor to it, and it just goes really well with thyme. I've done a little bit of brown sugar. We don't have to do a lot at all, but it just makes these caramelized beautifully. And then I'm topping them with some fresh herbs. So healthier alternative to your fried wings.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was my kind of question there, as opposed to, your typical, if you're frying in oil or what have you, or, a fryer even, compared to baking, letting some of that fat kind of come off. How much of a difference is that there in the two options, just as being a little bit, heart healthier, I'm sure?
Yeah, definitely a lot heart healthier. What we see when we deep fry them is that they soak up so much of the oil. Instead, here we're just leaning on that fat, which of course there is some in the skin, but a lot of that is dripping off and just maintaining this really nice crisp inside. And a lot of people deal with heart disease, and I think what we can do is just take little steps to reduce that saturated fat, and swapping something fried for something baked is a great choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, it can be so tricky to want to treat yourself, on fun occasions, like maybe you're, heading to a big tailgate or a big, party kind of tailgate in your living room. But if it's, you're trying to make some small choices throughout your week that are just a touch healthier, how much easier can that make it and better for you health-wise to just be kind of making small changes as you can as you go?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of keeping things that you love in your diet, right? Like if we restrict ourselves too much, it's very easy that when we go back to eating normally, we overdo it. So restriction is not the idea here. It's finding little ways that we can make things healthier, add some more balance, and just find opportunities to add more vegetables, which is kind of what I'm doing here in this last recipe. I think everyone loves a buffalo chicken dip. Can serve it with chips, but I think when vegetables are on the spread, people are much more likely to consume them. So throw some celery, throw some cucumbers on there. And this buffalo chicken dip is also made healthier I've made this in a slow cooker, but thrown this into the pan just so you can see it a little better. The key ingredient here, or what makes it a little bit healthier, is going to be cottage cheese. And that sounds really strange because cottage cheese texture is, I don't know, for the lack of better terms, well, bumpy. So what I've done is actually blended the cottage cheese. I'm using an immersion blender for that, but you can also throw it into a normal blender or a food processor, makes it smooth. And we're replacing that for about half the cream cheese that you would normally use in a recipe. So that is going to add protein. It's also going to reduce a lot of that saturated fat because we know a lot of these dairy products are very rich in saturated fat, and that's what's linked to high cholesterol. I'm also using regular cheese here, but in a block, and that's key to making this run so beautifully because if you use pre-shredded cheese, it's got this kind of powder that they put on top of it, and it makes it difficult to melt. And then just to make it easy, using canned chicken and half a packet of ranch mix, just so easy, right?
Absolutely. Okay, and I can attest to what you were kind of just saying there. I do not love cottage cheese by itself, but I've done exactly what you did here and blended it. I've actually made kind of like an enchilada sauce before with cottage cheese. Really bumps the protein up. And I promise you, for the people who are like, oh my gosh, ew, cottage cheese, you don't taste it when you blend it in with spice and other things, and, and still having some cheese or some cream cheese in there, just a little bit less, to take that fat content down. And again, boost that protein, which is also so popular right now. So I can attest to how delicious I'm sure that dip is. Yeah, absolutely. Shanti, thanks so much for joining us once again. Any just final thoughts? I know our Lions aren't playing tonight for you to enjoy all this food where you are, closer to the Detroit area, but any final tips for folks, as football season continues?
Yeah, think about what's to drink on the table too. I like to suggest that people keep things like sparkling water, right, to make the healthy choice the easy choice again. But it's a little bit more spiced up than just water, and maybe people will gravitate towards that than too many cocktails or beer or something like that. And it's of course so important to stay hydrated, especially when you're outside for such a long period of time, maybe focusing on other things. So just important to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Shanti, thank you so much for joining us once again. We so appreciate your expertise and you explaining the science and all of just the logistical stuff behind this, and knowing why this is just a touch better for us. So thank you so much for joining us once again, and enjoy all of that lovely food. I am jealous.
Thank you so much, Julia. And all of our recipes are on a healthiermichigan.org.
Awesome. Shanti, thank you.